Welcome to the Big Talk podcast, where we chat all things business and personal development related, totally unfiltered and unscripted. I'm your host, Amanda Davies, and I'm here to help you transform into the leader you were born to be, stand apart from the competition, and most importantly, share your message with the world in a big, big way. Are you ready? Welcome once again to Big Talk. Hey guys, welcome back to this week's episode of the podcast. I'm really excited to share with you a little bit more about this topic of change and transformation today, because if one thing is certain in life besides death and taxes, it is change. We are all going to go through it. Whether that is changing of our careers or changing relationships or relocation or people sadly coming and going from our lives as well. We are all going to have to go through a massive amount of change in our lifetime. And I think one of the things that is so inherently human of us is that we naturally resist change. Okay, we do. We don't like change typically. And we are scared of it. We kind of a little bit anxious when it's time to change as well, or something has to happen in our life. And this is kind of what I wanted to speak to today. I wanted to kind of hopefully provide some comfort and some certainty around change for you if it's something that you are encountering. So whether you're building a business, for example, and maybe you're looking to leave your job, or maybe ending a relationship, or going through a big relocation, or changing direction in your business, whatever it happens to look like for you. What I really hope after sharing what I'm about to share with you, you feel more inspired and more confident than ever to really confront that change and to move through it and know that what's on the other side of it is not only meant for you, but is meant for you to thrive within. Okay, it's not something that you need to fear. Now, I will say kind of right up front is that I know many people in my audience are very growth minded. All right. So many of us have been through a lot of changes. We're very kind of, we have a lot of battle scars. I would say a lot of people in my audience listening to this have been through big changes in our lives, and we've been through a lot. All right. But still, although we start to build confidence with time, still if we're faced with change, there is usually at least some trepidation around it. And, speaking from experience here too, I'm looking to move countries at the end of this year again. And I know that whilst that is so exciting and definitely on my path and part of my vision, there's also some concern around it for sure. And there's some anxiety around it too. And so I wanted to kind of talk a little bit more about this today, because as I said, humans, we naturally resist change. We naturally think, oh God, here we go. Oh, I don't want to do that. And what happens is so many of us either run away from change, or we stall it, or we delay it, and we drag it out. And this is something that has been one of my own personal patterns as well. And I've spoken about this very openly in the past, where I tend to cling and grasp to things until the bitter end, until pretty much change is forced upon me. All right. And this is going to be a really powerful distinction that I want to come back to a little bit earlier, because I really do believe that we can choose to make a change, and we can choose it willingly and go willingly, or we will be dragged. Okay, we will be dragged, because I believe that the state and nature of the universe and the world that we live in is such that we are always forced to change. We are pushed to change, and we are forced to evolve as well. It's part of what I believe makes us human. And I think it's part of really our soul evolution and our growth here, this very short time that we are on earth. And I really believe that some of our biggest lessons can be learned through the way that we approach and move through and operate on the other side of change as well. Okay, so have a little think about this. Have a think about when change has come upon you in your life. What's been your reaction to change? Is it something that's come about quite suddenly, so you just had to roll with it really quickly? Or is it something that has been coming, but you've sort of delayed it, or stuck your head in the sand, or maybe you've tried to run away or draw it out, and you're putting all of the stall tactics in place too. Maybe you've been fighting against it. Okay, resisting the change, resisting and fighting and struggling, which is definitely one of my go-tos. Okay. Maybe that's caused a lot of anxiety and worry and the what ifs. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if I can't handle what's on the other side of that change? Can I trust myself enough to really be in that state of change? So have a think about what's your MO, what's your way typically that you handle change in your own life, and get really curious about that. Notice if there are any patterns there for you. Because I think that, the way that we handle change, and it says so much about us. It shows us where our blind spots are and things as well, for sure. But, I really want to draw in comparison to this incredible legend and this mythology, which is the legend of the phoenix. All right. And I know it's such an overused story, but it's so beautiful. And I think there's a reason why people really love this mythology piece and why they love this legend, because it's so relatable. Even though we're talking about a bird, that kind of sets itself alight and goes up in flames, we can see ourselves in this. And this is why I think storytelling and mythology is so powerful, because even in these modern times, there are just these through lines and these patterns that we can see within ourselves. And this is why I think this is so powerful, this sort of storytelling. But the thing that I wanted to sort of focus on with this legend of the phoenix are a couple of the lessons that I feel are just so powerful for us when we're moving through change in these modern times too. Because although a lot of people talk about how the phoenix sets itself alight and then it rises again from the ashes, that's kind of the extent of what people like to share about this myth. But there are a couple of other points about it that I wanted to sort of share with you that I think are the more interesting parts of this myth, all right? Because one of the things that I learned when I was looking into this myth in more detail was that the phoenix actually builds her own funeral pyre. She doesn't just suddenly burst into flames, kind of willy-nilly sort of thing. She actually knows that it's upon her. She knows that death is upon her, and she creates the pyre in which she then sits atop of that pyre and sets herself alight, and obviously is turned to ash. I think this is one of the more interesting learning kind of points or lessons from this myth, which is that it's this knowing when change needs to happen. Us knowing when this needs to happen and consciously choosing it and preparing for it. And I think this is so beautiful because, like I was saying before, the alternative is, we meet change and we resist it and we are dragged through it, kicking and screaming, or we can actually be made more aware of it through conscious choices and actively choose to participate in change, rather than almost just letting time do what it does, or letting the universe kind of just rip the rug out from underneath us. And so I think it's this incredible and this beautiful knowing when change needs to take place and trusting that and actively taking steps to build around it as well. Okay, so I think there's just something to be said for that, knowing when to make change, knowing that when something is upon us that we're being guided to, it's kind of trusting that, because I think this is part of what we so often ignore. We have the signs and we feel it intuitively that change is upon us, but we resist it for all of those reasons. And the only way I can describe it from my own experience, which is sort of feeling of something's coming. It's this feeling of something's coming, something's changing. And it's almost like something begins to change in the air and the atmosphere around us. We know change is coming, even if it's not the next day or straight away. We know that it's coming soon. And I think it's when we start to feel that intuitively, and when we start to notice the synchronicities and we notice the niggles and the niggles within us, we notice our inner guidance system starting to kind of stir up and whir a little bit. I think that's the time when we can really tune in to what's coming and what's next. So I think that's really one of the most beautiful parts of this legend as it applies to us. And I think being more conscious of our body and what it's telling us and our own internal guidance system, and really trust, but also trusting the time for change is upon us, and we can start to actively participate in that. Super beautiful. The next thing as well that I wanted to talk about with this legend is when the phoenix burns up and she self-ignites, okay, and she obviously turns into ash, what's often not spoken about is the wisdom and the knowledge and the experience and the things that she has seen from her last 1,000 years of existence, because this is the thing, phoenixes are really old, aren't they? Like live between, I think, 500 to 1,500 years. But she takes all of this beautiful wisdom and intelligence and knowledge, and it's actually put into the egg. So what arises from the ashes is an egg. And the universal egg, the concept of the egg is just so powerful from a symbolic meaning, from an arc. And the egg really is that symbol of rebirth and new life. Okay. But this isn't baby phoenix that's being born, with no wisdom or awareness of what's going on around it. It's not like this naive little baby phoenix. This new phoenix that's reborn actually has all of that wisdom and knowledge from the old phoenix. And I just think this is so beautiful. And actually, in the original legend, that egg is then offered up to the sun god, and the sun god obviously gives his blessing for the new phoenix to be born and to arise again, which I think is beautiful. So it's almost like the blessing of sharing, and it's the ongoing rebirth of this wisdom and knowledge that's so beautiful, that will be rebirthed through this baby phoenix. Okay, this next iteration of the phoenix that died. And so I think the lesson in here for us, going back to what I was saying about sometimes we feel so anxious with change because we're not sure if we can cope with or handle what's on the other side of the transition. We're not sure if we can do it. We're not sure if we can handle it. And I think this is where the second lesson for me in this legend is so, so powerful, because it's like we are not being reborn. We are not these naive people that are going to be kicking around on the other side of it. Actually, we get to take with us all the beautiful wisdom and knowledge and experience that we have gained through the change itself. But even before that, we get to carry that forward with on the other side, into that rebirth, into that new energy of change on the other side of the transition. And I think this is something we often forget, that through change and through, I guess, what could be described as fires of change, we are actually being strengthened. And this is what fire does. It's very alchemical, really, in that sense. It's like it's fortifying us, it's making us stronger. It's also molding us and shaping us as well. This is what fire also does. It allows us to change form. And I think having that faith in ourselves that we are being forged through these fires, and with it, we are carrying the skills and the knowledge and the wisdom that we have gained. And ultimately, when we are rebirthed on the other side, we have all of that with us, and we have been prepared perfectly for what's next in our lives, no matter how painful it may have been at the time. Okay. So I think this is something that I wanted to share with you, hopefully to comfort you around the fact that actually you have everything you need to be equipped to deal with change and to get through and onto the other side, very empowered. All right. And I really, really believe that we can master and see the benefits of that rebirth until we are willing to embrace that little death that comes through all change and all transformation in our lives. So, bring this back down to the practical. Just for example, if you are looking to leave your job to start your new business, I mean, oh my gosh, I went through it myself years ago. So many emotions, so much fear and anxiety comes up with that, of course. I often tell the story. At the time I was single, I had a mortgage to pay, I had bills to pay, I didn't have a partner to rely on. My business needed to work, frankly. I back up my sleep. It probably would have just been to go back and get another job, but that wasn't an option for me. So I can relate to the anxiety and the feelings of, oh my gosh, this is a brand chapter. This is turning on everything that's come before in terms of my professional experience and my skill set, what I've been known for, my identity to a certain degree. And then having to be rebirthed through the flames, which was the quitting, the giving in my notice, the stumbles when it comes to starting my business, and what did that really mean, and how was I coping, and the falls and the challenges that came along with that, right through to the other side, which is obviously where I am now, and things are amazing. I'm living my purpose. This is what I get to do. And I love this. But I think it's and taking comfort through knowing that that change process, even in and of itself, first the decision, then the thing that you pass through, have made you so much stronger. Because not only are you going to be able to, in this instance, possibly empathize with your audience if they're going through something similar, if they're going through the same change as you, or whether they are going through a different kind of change in their life, whatever it happens to be. You've been there, you've walked it. No one wants to work with a coach or a mentor or a guide who hasn't been there themselves. Okay, so I really believe that in order for us to walk our clients home, we need to have been through that change ourselves. Okay, have that skill and that experience and that wisdom. It's not learned skill that you would get in a book. It's that wisdom through having lived it. That's where I really believe the most value is that we can add to our clients and to our communities online too. So just know that everything is happening exactly as it should be. But I think for you, as someone who may be confronted with change, it's number one, remembering and knowing that it's time to make the decision around change, not allow it to just be dragged through the change, which is far more painful. I've been there too. More painful to be dragged through the experience, knowing when it's time to build your metaphorical funeral pyre, okay, and when it's time to set that alight. Okay, that's the first thing. And then the second thing is just really knowing and trusting that whatever it is that you have learned carries forward through the flames with you. And actually what is on the other side is a stronger, more empowered, better version of you, even though it may hurt, even though you may be limping for a while after the change. Actually, there would be nothing, I believe there is nothing that happens. God gives us, the universe, or whatever it is that you believe in. God or the universe doesn't bring us or give us the challenges and change that he doesn't feel that we can handle. Okay, we're only given the tasks and the change and the challenge that he knows we're strong enough to handle, to carry. Okay, so that's really important to remember too. All right. So this is about really seeing the benefits of and mastering that rebirth element by getting super comfortable and embracing that death that needs to occur on some level, okay, in you, knowing that you've been given absolutely everything you need to be able to get to the other side in a way that is strong, that's empowered, that is impactful, and also safe, okay, safe. And knowing that you're there just to make an even bigger impact in the world around you as well. I hope that helped. Take care till next time. Bye. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Big Talk podcast today. If you have enjoyed this episode, then please do leave us a review and share it with your friends. For further information about our programs and free content, head on over to lightpurposeliving.com. See you soon.